Okay, class, today we're going to be talking about something very important that helps us figure out who is telling a story when we read. Okay, let's get started. Okay, can anyone tell me what they see? A bunny, okay, a duck. Wow, I hear different answers. Can anyone tell me if there's only one correct answer? No, that's right. So, depending on your point of view, you may see something different than your classmates, or you may see the same thing. Can anyone guess what they think point of view means? Wow, I love all these definitions. So, the point of view is the position from which something or someone is observed. For example, Matt saw a bunny while Kyle saw a duck. So in a story, the point of view is the way the narrator tells a story. Now that we know what point of view is, who wants to know more? Okay, so this is where I will put my PowerPoint on the board, and I will hand out some guided notes. Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's learn more about point of view and the different types. Okay, so make sure you are following along in your guided notes. So, what is point of view? So the point of view is the voice behind the story. It is who is telling the story. So when looking for the point of view, you must figure out who is telling the story, use inferences, so guess, to figure out the character's point of view, and remember that depending on the point of view, the story may change. So that might sound a little confusing, so we're going to use an example of how point of view impacts a story. So you can take a break from your guide notes. Okay. Raise your hand if you've ever read the story of The Three Little Pigs. Wow, a lot of you have read it. So our example is about the Three Little Pigs. So the original story of the Three Little Pigs is told from the pigs' point of view. There was a big bad wolf. The wolf huffed and he puffed and he blew the pig's house down. But the true story of the Three Little Pigs is told from the wolf's point of view. The wolf was so nice, and all he wanted to do was buy some sugar, and the wolf sneezed and knocked the house down by mistake. He did not blow them down. So as you can see, the story changes drastically based on who is telling the story. Okay? So now let's learn about the different types of point of view. So everyone pull your guide notes back out and continue to follow along. Okay, so the first type is first person. This means that a character in the story tells the story. So they use keywords like I, me, we, or my. So let's look at our example. Yesterday, I took a trip to the market. As I turned the key and pulled out of my driveway, I couldn't help but notice the dog in my yard. So we can see that the narrator is talking about a story that has happened to them. As you can see, the bolded with the I, the my's. Okay, so the second type is second person. Okay, so this means that a second person is used to address the reader. So it's like someone is talking to you. Okay, so they use keywords like you, your, yours, anything like that. So let's look at our example. Before you go to school, make sure to walk your dog and brush your teeth. Don't forget your book bag or to lock the door behind you. So we can see the narrator is really talking to the reader because they use you and your a lot. Okay. So now the third type is third person. So this means that a narrator outside of the story tells the story. So they use keywords like he, she, or they. Or the author may also use the character's name. So let's look at our example. The moose was getting ready to walk out into the road. He moved his head to the left and turned right. There was not a car in sight. He began to cross the road. So we can see that the narrator is talking about a story that happened to someone else. It happened to the moose. It did not happen to who was telling the story, okay? So there are 3 different types of third-person point of view: limited, omniscient, and objective. The only difference between the 3 is the number of characters in which the narrator knows their feelings. So in limited third person, the narrator knows what one character thinks and how he or she feels. In omniscient third person, the narrator knows what many characters think and how they feel. And then in objective third person, the narrator doesn't know how the characters think or how they feel. Okay, so before we move on to practice, let's look at this poster of questions to ask when identifying point of view. So this is a flow chart that you guys can look at any time while trying to figure out the point of view of a reading. Now, let's get started with some practice. Okay. Here are our practice problems. Okay, so we're going to look at 3 practice problems together. After reading the problem, we'll use the questions from our poster to figure out the point of view. Is everyone ready? Okay, so the parade marched down the street. It was led by a capped drummer. He set a stately pace and tapped the accompanying rhythm. A marching band followed behind him, matching his pace. Behind the band were floats of all sizes and designs. Children and adults were riding on the floats, tossing out penny candies, streamers, and plastic prizes. The street was lined with people. The noises of revelry filled the streets. Okay, so now let's use our questions. So, does this rating have the words me, my, or I outside of quotation marks? No, that's right. So it does not use any of those pronouns. Okay, so we're going to follow the arrow that says no, okay? Does it have the words you and your? No, awesome. It doesn't have you or your anywhere in it. So let's follow the next arrow with no. So we know now it is third person, but what kind? Okay, so do we see into the minds of any of the characters in this reading? No. Good job, everyone. We do not see into the minds of any characters, so this reading is third person objective. Okay, let's move on to number 2. The dew on the grass made my running shoes damp. It didn't bother me. The sound of my feet hitting the street formed a rhythm, a steady pattern of light thumps. I timed my breathing with the rhythm. These sounds filled my head. I thought of nothing other than the next step in keeping my tempo. I soared over the sidewalks like concrete clouds. Okay, now let's use our questions. So does this reading have the words my, me, or I outside of quotation marks? Yes, that's right. It does use those pronouns. So, as we can see, this reading is first person. Awesome. Okay, that one was a quick one. Let's read number 3. So, if you are confused about something in class, don't wait. Raise your hand and ask for help immediately. Do it while your teacher is still explaining the material. Your teacher will probably be happy that you are taking an active part in your education and should attempt to explain the material in a different way. If you are still confused, ask your teacher if he or she is available after class to give you additional instructions. You are worth it. Don't give up on yourself. Okay, now let's use our questions. Does this reading have the words me, my, or I outside of quotation marks? No, that's right. It does not use any of these pronouns. So let's follow the arrow. Does it have the words you or your? Yes, awesome. It does have you or you're in the reading. So as we can see, it is second person. Awesome, guys. So now that we have practiced a little bit, I'm going to let you guys work on a worksheet in small groups. Okay. When I say go, I want everyone to find a group of 3 as quietly and quickly as possible. Okay, ready, set, go. Okay, now that everyone is in their groups, I want you to find a space to work somewhere throughout the room. And once you find your space, sit down and raise your hand. So this is where I will hand out this worksheet. Okay, as a group, you will try and figure out the point of view for all 3 passages. Once you have finished, come to me and I will write your answers on our graphic organizer. You guys can go ahead and get started. So I'll write like all their answers for like for passage 1, passage 2, and passage 3, and then we would compare it as a class.